On a day like today, when the field's empty, we get a chance to talk to the coordinators and some assistant coaches. Had a chance to catch up with Gus Bradley today. Gus talking about Shaquille Leonard, what he means to the defense, where this defense is, where they got to go, what's going on with the secondary, all that and more from the great Gus Bradley.
As Shaq's coach, how important is it that he's actually out here practicing from the first day this year? Because, I mean, it is still a new scheme for him.
Yeah, and it is, but, I mean, he talks the language. You know, he's done a great job. I mean, he's here early in the morning, one of those guys like that, in early, leaves late, meets with the coaches. He is, you know, one guy that really wants to make sure he is the ultimate communicator out in the field and wants to be that for this unit. So to do that, you got to study a lot, and he's done that. So I think it's just a different feel with him out there because of his competitiveness and his playmaking ability.
A lot of guys have a presence, but not many like him. When I'm talking just his vocal nature on the field, all that. I mean, what does that bring you?
You know, it's just like kind of like Kenny, you know, where the standard and the pace type deal. He does that in the linebacker room and with the unit. And I think that, you know, there's a sense of confidence when he's out on the field, players look back, they see him. It's like, okay, we don't have to worry about what's going on behind us with him. He kind of has that presence. I think in a way, he brings a sense of calm where guys can just focus on what they need to do. And but I'm anticipating his energy to only even pick up more and more as he's, you know, getting back into playing shape and in the
because he has to gain confidence in himself, right? That's process.
I think he's always had confidence.
Yeah,
you know, like
coming off the injury.
Yeah, coming off it. I think that just where he's at and what he can do. But I mean, our training staff has done a tremendous job, and he has too. Committed to coming back from it. So he does. I mean, it is early, but he does surely look different.
Gus, when it comes to the guys on the bottom of the roster fighting for the end of that 53 here in camp, what is it that you want to see from them that makes them stand out? Is it more consistency? Is it flash play?
Yeah, I think that's the big part. I mean, you got to have the ability that they can count into play after play, so the consistent part of it. And then a lot of those young guys, I mean, we talked about it yesterday, some of the expectations. I mean, special teams plays a big part of it. You know, so they've got to take that part of it and elevate their game there. So usually when it comes down to it for those younger guys, special teams plays such a big part of it unless they're a starter.
What have you seen from Dallas Flowers? Chris Bell was really high on him the other day, and obviously someone who had an opportunity to play.
I think Dallas is one of those guys where he's got the length, the speed, and you look at him and you see the playmaking. Now it's just the consistency. Do we know what we're getting from play after play? But I think he mentioned to me something, you know, back in OTAs talking to Gilly, and Gilly kind of liked him and how he was, and he's like that. I think with Coach Miles, he kind of grew on Milo, you know, as the season went on, and I think that's important for Milo. You understand him to play in the secondary, he has to trust you. And I think that's what Dallas did as the season went on. I think there was a level of trust between those two.
Julian Blackmon's playing a somewhat new position. Just how did that process kind of unfold, and what do you think he kind of brings to the strong safety role?
Well, so here's Julian. He's playing free safety. Then we play him some strong. And then Kenny Moore gets hurt. We play him at nickel. I think that experience at nickel has helped his overall game. I think that he has a better sense of what everybody's doing around him. And the strong safety is a guy in our defense that is going to be around the ball a lot. If you remember Seattle, Cam Chancellor, just around the ball, making tackles, defending the pass, utilize his skill set. You know, that's where Julian's playing for us. So I think him playing nickel last year gave a better understanding, because there's times it does, you know, feel like a nickel position. Other times it feels like a free safety position. So there's a lot on that plate, and his mentality is the type of person that can handle it.
Sometimes with a free safety, when they move down into the box, you worry about their tackling. Where is Julian in terms of him as a tackler?
Well, that's where I think as a nickel linebacker in our system is more, at times can appear like an outside linebacker. And that's what Julian played last year for us, you know, played some nickel. So I thought his tackling right there, that kind of gave us an idea after watching him tackling there that maybe strong safety is a good position for him.
Julian is dealing with a bit of an injury, but it opens some more time for Nick Cross to kind of develop. What do you hope to see out of him?
Well, Nick Cross probably made his biggest jump in OTAs. I thought that, you know, you might see his full concentration in practice, but then last year in walkthrough it was the focus, maybe not quite where it needed to be. And, that was a teaching part to say, hey, the walkthrough is just as important. We need your full concentration. There's no, that's where players trust you that you know what to do. Now, in OTAs, I think he put those two both together. I thought he had good walkthrough sessions, he had good practices, and it felt like rather than being concerned how his teammates felt of him, it was more of a concern how he plays and making sure he understands it. So I saw a big jump in his maturity. Now it's can he carry it over to training camp, but I thought he made a big jump.
Shaq mentioned that he has to watch the tape to see where he really is. Are you collaborating with him on that? Like, as part of the staff, looking at it with him to say, okay, this is where you were at this point, where you kind of need to get to?
Yeah, I think, Shaq is one of those players that has great communication with all areas of the organization. So if he's working out, all of a sudden you'll get a videotape of him working out. Say, hey, here's where I'm at. And the relationship Richard Smith and him have developed is there is a strong sense of trust between those two. And I think Shaq will go to Richard and say, hey, what did you think? And Richard Smith, as if you know him, there's not a lot of BS to him. He'll tell him, but when he says, hey, I like the way this is looking and how it's coming together, but that's Shaq. He's got great communication, sends tapes to me, Richard, the trainers, and I think we all have a pretty good sense where he's at. So now, really, it truly is about just getting him reps.
That's Gus Bradley. Interesting stuff from Gus. And I thought it was really interesting how communicative Shaquille Leonard is with the defensive staff, where he's talking to the coaches, he's talking about what he's training at, how he's training, sharing videos, all of that kind of stuff, and that he and Richard Smith have really kind of formed a bond, some trust. That's interesting to me. This defense is really, really different with Shaquille Leonard a part of that. Without him, it's kind of DeForest Buckner and a bunch of guys. Is that unfair? Some of these guys got to step up is kind of the point. Not that they aren't good football players, but they got to step up. Kwity Paye, step up. Dio, step up. Right? EJ Speed, I think, is going to. Julian Blackmon's got to step up. Nick Cross, step up. The rookies at cornerback, Dallas Flowers, they got to step up. Interesting stuff about Dallas Flowers, too, from Gus Bradley.